So, my dear Domenico, we've known each other now for quite a number of years, and it's been a beautiful friendship. I remember sitting there, at the corner of the room, first time we were introduced, and just discovering what a beautiful soul you are, and discovering how much you love Israel and the Jewish people. And why is that?
Oh, because Jewish people represents my roots.
Your roots.
Our roots as Christian. I am always in the Hebrew Jewish atmosphere when I pray every morning. Every morning I pray the Psalms. Every morning I read some passage of the Old Testament, what we call Old Testament, your Bible.
In Hebrew or in what?
When I have time also in Hebrew, because when I read in Hebrew, I need some help of translation. So.
But you have a connection for the feel of the Hebrew.
Yes. אשרי האיש אשר לא הלך בעשת רשעים.
Wow.
So בראשית ברא אלוהים. So it's so when I studied, of course, it was better now.
Like my Greek.
Yes, of course. This and so when I read Psalms in Hebrew, when I read a passage this morning, for instance, I read in our first reading of the New Covenant prophesied by Jeremiah.
Oh, today was Jeremiah 31?
Jeremiah,
I see.
the New Covenant. And so when I read so wonderful pages, this is for me my life. And this should be for every Christian.
But let me ask you, this is like you say, roots. What about the Judaism of today? Does the Judaism of today or the Israel of today continue to inspire you?
Of course, they continue to inspire me, because you keep your foundation in the Bible, and because you are the people, the chosen people. For me, it's so important that you are the chosen people. It's for me.
What does that mean?
Not a problem. Not a problem, because it is the condition why I feel Jesus so close to me.
Through the Jewish people?
Yes, of course. Suppose God had not God chosen you, and not chosen any people in the world. It would be a God in heaven, looking at us all in the same way, but from above. And this is good. Of course, other religions look at God in this way, and this is the normal way that we can consider in religious experience as the first step. But if I love God and He loves me, and my desire is that He comes to me, that I can touch Him in some way. So all the story of salvation, the history of salvation, is the history of a God who more and more comes closer to our humanity. This happens through the Jewish history.
So the Jewish people are the beginning of the incarnation?
Of course. Jesus is really a Jew.
No, but even before the incarnation of Jesus, the people of Israel are already a form of incarnation, of God coming close?
Yes, of course. Well, when, for instance, I read about the meaning of the temple in the Old Testament, when I read the Psalms, say, I go to the temple to meet my God. This is what I see when Jesus is a new temple. Is called that as not only in some stones, chosen stones, of course, blessed stones, and you now as a Jew, you want to recover in some way these stones, are blessed stones, but no, well, of course the presence of God in these stones.
I have to say something.
For me now, these stones are also important, but what is more important is that God is in this person, this nature, this human nature, which is an Hebrew, a Jewish nature.
Exodus 25. They will make a tabernacle or temple for me, and I will dwell amongst them. So many commentators say, I will dwell amongst them. I don't dwell in the building, I dwell in the people.
Yes.
So the importance of the temple is the people of God. And then there's a sage from Safed, by the name of Rabbi Moshe Al-Sheikh. He takes it a step further. He says, I will dwell in each and every one of them. So each person has to be the temple. So it's not the physical temple.
Yes.
Now yesterday, it so happens, we were reading yesterday, the weekly reading is called Pekudei, the last passage in Shmot. And I was studying something from a Hasidic master called Rabbi Shaul Taub of Mozhitz. And he says the following. He says that there are two temples. There's an earthly temple and there's a heavenly temple. And there's a correspondence between the one and the other. And when the earthly temple is destroyed, we still have the heavenly temple. Now we pray for the rebuilding of the temple, but we don't pray for it to be rebuilt as something that we do at our initiative or of stones, but it's that heavenly temple that has to come down here. So when you say the Jews are expecting the temple to be rebuilt of stones, that's also true. There are many Jews like that. To me, this teaching is a very beautiful teaching because it says that the temple is the divine dwelling spiritually in the people and in each person. And if we only look at the physical building, then we miss the spiritual depth.
Yeah, this is important, it's true, and it's beautiful. It's beautiful. I can understand it because also in our spirituality, we feel all temples of God, temples of the Holy Spirit.
St. Paul says that.
St. Paul says that, but only with our roots in Jesus. And Jesus. So Jesus is the new and true temple, as he is the new and true and also eternal covenant. This is our following up, so to say, of the Jewish history of salvation. Everything you say of the temple, the people, for us is, so to say, concentrated in Jesus. So a movement like this, concentrate to become a movement for everybody, for all humanity, and of course, first of all, for the Jews, because we read in the Bible, especially in St. Paul, it's so important that all the Jewish people can accept this, but we understand that's not so easy to accept. This is a problem of faith, a problem of grace, and so we can appreciate what you feel, what you believe, also when you don't believe, like we believe that Jesus is the summit of this history. The summit, we should underline the summit that is also a summit in the history, because we, like you, we expect in eschatology, at the end of times, we expect also the final arriving of this summit. So in this sense, in these eschatological expectations, we feel still close, because it's so important. You don't concentrate in Jesus, your faith, but like as you expect, you wait for the final arriving of Mashiach. So in this sense, we are closer than man can imagine.
So we managed in 5 minutes to get to the heart of the Jewish-Christian dispute, because you believe that Jesus has come and that Jesus is the fulfillment and the concentration
Yes.
of the chosenness of Israel and God's presence and the continuation of the temple concentrated in one person, and you say we don't. So your way of solving this is through common eschatological hope, right?
Yes.
We both away.
Yes.
It's like the joke, when Jesus comes. So the Jews and Christians are going to ask him, was this your first time or your second time?
Okay.
But I think this is the wrong way of looking at it.
Okay.
I want to make another proposal to you. I want to propose to you the following. You just spoke now, because right now, from your perspective of how you see Judaism, it's we had something great to give you, you received it,
Yes.
we stayed behind because we didn't understand the fullness of Jesus, and only in the future everything will come together. That's the common view, and that's the view you're presenting.
Yes. Yes.
There's two problems with that view.
Yes.
The one is that it doesn't leave you with the ability to receive anything from Judaism today, because then it makes Judaism very much just your roots, but not something of the present. And the other, it makes Judaism a very weak religion because it's missing out on something.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to suggest to you another way of looking at this. And I say this to you as someone who spent time in my home, and we celebrated Shabbat, and I know that you appreciate me spiritually, not just because I'm your older brother,
Yes.
right? You appreciate me because of what we share, because of my spiritual life, because what I represent, and not just because I'm your roots. So I want to suggest something going back to these, to this notion of the physical temple and spiritual temple. If you don't put a name on it, don't call it Jesus, but just recognize the spiritual reality, then you and us are both in this process of receiving, of connecting our earthly reality with a higher reality, recognizing that this is not the full reality, but that God comes to us in this reality, but through a higher presence that he makes available to us. Maybe it's time to feel that reality, open our hearts to that reality, and not worry about the name we give it. Because Jews don't have an empty life without Jesus, and Christians have something also for real the Jews may not know in that way. So if we can speak about that dwelling of God's presence in parallel ways, complementary ways, rather than worrying about the naming, that would open the possibility for Christians to appreciate Judaism more today and not just as their roots. Does that make sense?
Yes, I would say that when I speak of roots, I don't speak of something that is in my back. Roots are something that lives in the whole tree. So what comes from you, we make exceptions of some details or rights, and this is for me a secondary thing. But the substance of your life is not something this in my back. When I say roots, I say roots. And so, for example, what I read today about the covenant, new covenant, is something that helps me to explain what I believe. When I come to you invited so friendly from you in at your home for Shabbat, I don't feel in your Shabbat and your Shabbat lunch something that only recalls me something that isn't back. No, it's something that helps me to understand what I am. For instance, what my Eucharist is. Because what Jesus lived and celebrated in his earthly life is something that remains. So there is not a relationship of something that died and something that lives, but something that in a new way continues to live. And so...
In me, or continues to live in you?
In you and me.
In both of us.
In both of us. So for me to look at you, at your life, at your tradition, at your rights, at your, especially at your reading the Bible, in something that continues in me. For me, there is no problem. Look, let us imagine something that happened in early Christianity. They were all Jews, all Greek, who in certain way were close to Jews. What happened when they convert? Until they remained only Jews, they were for the others important. After their conversion to Christ, they didn't feel something different. They continued to feel Jews. It took time to make this separation, no? And this came also for historical circumstances. But for me, it's so good. Suppose that I am Paul. Suppose not just a comparison very high, but just suppose I'm Paul, and you are a rabbi. Like in gospel, in gospel it's so good. There is a very friendly dialogue between Jesus and the rabbi. There are many passages where these discussions were full of tension, but there is also a passage where there is a very good conversation, and the rabbi asked Jesus, "What do you think about the first commandment?" And Jesus answers, "The first commandment is to love God, and the second one is to love the others as myself." And the Bible, and Jesus says, you have the same faith, the same reading of the Bible, and so look, if we were both continuing the conversation, perhaps we should find some difficulty in accepting something more or something else, but this remains. So,
you said something fantastic just now. What you just said is like this: that we're at a historical moment where we can roll back in time to the point when there wasn't this separation, and through the advances in interreligious dialogue, we can recreate the reality, the early reality before the split, of different voices, that of Jesus and others, or that of the early Christians and others, but when there was still those moments when they could be reconciled, and rediscover what those moments mean through our present reality now. That's a fantastic insight. I've never thought of it.
This would be wonderful, and this would also help us to understand the various steps of our way to God. In the life of everybody, there are various steps. I wouldn't say in my own life, because I had the grace to believe always, but I had also some crisis of faith when I was a young man and I studied. Moments in which I said, but it's true that Jesus here is really God. How can he have foundations to this? Not only in the faith. Faith is not something that starts when I get up in the morning and come. Faith is a process in which the grace of God comes to me, and I also respond. Well, I had times where I was a Christian in crisis. I had to solve my problem. And so, for many other people who don't believe, it's not only a problem of Jewish people, of the majority of the humankind, they don't believe this. And for me, my belief, my faith in Christ is always something that is amazing, surprising me every day. Every day, I thank Jesus. How it's good that I can believe in you, because I understand this wonderful mystery of the faith. If God wanted to make himself manifest to us in a mathematical way, perhaps we had all believed 2 and 2 and make 4, but this couldn't be in a mathematical way a question of love. He wanted to reveal himself to us really in the language of love. And we all experience what this language is. We are growing now, aren't you, in our friendship. The first time you came here, precisely in this room, it was something that I appreciate you from first moment, because you are a wonderful friend. But, you know, the first time is first time. When I saw your Therese, your wife, first time is first time. But Shabbat by Shabbat, and word by word, and looking at each other, and every day with a new side, and this makes something different. So I could say that I don't remember since how many years we met here, but let us say 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, I don't remember. Before, as I said, I had no faith in you. This was normal, was not a sin. But afterwards, it happened that you came to me in the plan of God. Plan of God, because all is in the plan of God. And so our reciprocal faith, because there is also human faith. How much faith I must have in you, in your crazy project of this immense house for friendship. I must have. I say faith is a confidence. It's not
faith is good also.
Not logical, but when I go by car, I must have so much confidence in the others that they are
driving properly.
Sensible people. With this. So there is something that is so good. So I would say with a beauty, the beauty of love. This is the way that God used for us, and so it's no problem that in the question of life of love we are not all in the same moment. This it's a question of growing, and if I had a negative side of you, as I had a negative side of what I was when I didn't meet you.
Yeah.
But why? There is no problem. We are human. We are human. Human is history. We are growing. It's so good to appreciate what you are now, what I am now, what a child is now. A child is he has no possibility of faith, and so I don't say he doesn't believe. You see, in this moment there is no no great difficulty to accept that another human being is in his moment. I can say is more or less. He's in his moment, and God is for us, is for all. So for me, really,
so what you're saying is that even though
coming back to Jews,
right,
the same thing, but with something that is more, in comparison with the other religions, because we are same roots in this sense more, but not more in dignity, not more in appreciation, in reciprocal appreciation. No, when I see a Jew, I have a kind of a natural friendship, because this is my home. Really, when I saw Jewish people in Israel attacked the way that the terrorists made, I felt something that was in my own family, and not in another people. I felt something, you know, that for me was natural to say, I would like to be an hostage to save these people. I would say that I hope, because it's a grace of God, for all people in the world, but especially for a Jewish people. So my family.
So what you're saying is that the theological difference doesn't matter so much, and what one thinks doesn't matter so much, because at the end of the day, it's a matter of the encounter of love in God's presence, and God accepts everyone where they are, and you don't look, when you look at a Jewish person or maybe at other people, you don't look at what they believe or don't believe, you look at that common divinity and the common root and the common way that God comes to you through that person.
Really. And as I believe that Jesus is God in our nature, this is also a reason why I see also Jesus in every person. Jesus in the gospel.
Every person? I thought I was privileged.
In every person, but what I see in you is more than in every person, is a dimension of my Jesus, that is also so important, that is the Jewish character, the Hebrew character, because this was and this is the plan of God. He has chosen you. For me, it's a great joy. I don't say, why he didn't choose me. This is really something that has no sense. I am very, very happy that he chose you, because choosing you is also chose me.
What, you don't feel that nowadays you're chosen instead of the Jews? Many Jews think that Christians think that, Veros Israel. Now Christians are chosen.
Not instead of Jews, but with Jews, in a continuity with Jews, in another step.
So you're also chosen.
In these roots, through the Hebrew history and the Jesus concentration of this history.
Okay.
This is what I believe, but it's not instead, and of course not against. So for me, we must embrace. We must come back to the early phase of the encounter.
So we have to go back in time in order to go forward in time.
Yes, to go to our roots, go to our roots. This is my love and my hope for the future.
So what happens when you see people of other religions? Because we're talking about a center in Assisi of other religions. What happens when you see Muslims or Hindus come here?
Yeah, for me, I could say the perspective is more or less the same, in the sense that I see in the other religions a real experience of God, knowing that God doesn't live far away from us, He lives in us. And so in every people who puts himself with a sincere heart in front of God, I feel a real communion. We will
even without the common roots.
Even without common roots.
But then the God's dwelling is the common root.
Because Alan, well, the roots, as you know from the Bible, the roots in Abraham are a second step, so to say. We are a first root, which is what God is for all humanity, for all mankind.
Right.
So we have a covenant in Noah. This another step. But
You were saying when you were looking at people and seeing Jesus, we believe, you believe that man was created in the image of God, and there's a practice sometimes to go recalling the image of God as you see another person. So when you said earlier that you were seeing Jesus, I was saying, interesting. Instead of saying image of God, he's saying Jesus. But there's always that fundamental image of God in every person.
The image of God, because we have the grace. I really thank God for this faith, because it is not a human outcome of my reason or my argumentation. Is something that surprises me every moment that I confess this. But
you confess what?
That Jesus is also God for me.
Okay.
Because this puts me in the Trinitarian way to look at God. Not a God who is alone, but a God who is in himself, so to say,
in relationship.
a relationship. So I've had this great grace to look at God as a relationship, and this moves me to be towards every human being, but also towards the material things. We are in the very house, in the very space where Saint Francis said, brother sun, sister moon, sister water, and he sang this precisely here
In this room.
He compounded the canticle in San Damiano until our sister mother earth, and he finished here at the end of his life with the pain and with sister death. So everything is brother and sister. Look how many roots we have together with all people. I would say also with people who aren't able to confess a God with his name. Many confess that they are atheists, but when I see that they are men of love, men of justice, I see, but this is the name of God for them. Because we know, hey, you cannot say what we are accustomed to read. We say Yahweh, but you don't say this, don't say this, because really the very name of God is so high of our thoughts, of our words, that we cannot tell it. It's so important for us what God said to Moses with the burning.
Let me move you back to where we were a moment ago,
Okay.
about other religions. So, how does this view that you just described of the different faiths and how you see them all as brothers and sisters in one great divine presence, grounded in creation, and then reaffirmed by the presence of Jesus, expanding love and relationship to all? I think this is the summary of what you said. How does that relate to your vision for the planned house of friendship and hope. It's you who gave this house. I mean, you said call it that. You said call it House of Friendship and God. House of Friendship and Hope. So how does this whole vision translate into that?
Translate for?
My museum, so to speak, right? Which you called Casa d'Amicia Esperanza.
For this new
right.
new project.
The new project. How does your vision?
For me, it's important just because I hope that all religious people meeting and recognizing each other in some way that makes them appreciate the other vision because of this foundation, of this ground, that we are all in God, and God is in all of us, and so we have a different way to perceive Him, but they are all important ways because we are men in the history, and we must perceive our God, who is immense, is eternal. It's impossible to think in different way. So there is a home where we can learn to appreciate each other, to learn each other, so that we don't see each other from far. From far, we don't perceive. What I perceive also with Jewish tradition, since I made friendship with you, is more than what I learned in books.
Right.
In books. And so it's so important that we have this possibility to be and to live a little bit with each other. Of course, each one must be faithful to what he believes, and this is a condition. Otherwise, we should have a confusion of faith,
right?
And this is not good. It's not. I know that it's not what you want. It's not what I want. But a friendship, and a relationship for a world which gives us not these images of wars, spiritual and material, which is not really the plan of God and the desire of man.
So if I go back to earlier in the conversation, what I hear you saying, in fact, is this new project is a kind of temple. Because it's a temple where people have to meet each other and to meet God in the other, and therefore it's another kind of temple. It's not a church, it's not a synagogue, but it's a temple of friendship and a temple of hope and a temple of meeting. Would you agree with that?
I wouldn't call it a temple because this makes a confusion.
Makes the confusion. Okay.
I prefer the term house. It's a house. House is so important. We live in a house. We have home in our houses, and
we don't live in the house. We live in homes.
In homes. But this is a home for all religious people. But I wouldn't say that it's a temple abstractly. We could also say that in a very scientific way, because everything is temple of God. We are now in temple of God because everything. So in abstract way, we could also say that, but in a time of confused ideas,
right.
We must be also prudent. Why already people are much confused, and so we cannot inspire more confusion.
What would St. Francis say about this new project, this new house?
Of course, Francis lived in other times where a dialogue like this, wouldn't be possible. But he had some prophetic inspiration that are for today. The first one is not meeting with the Sultan. I don't think that is the first and most important thing. The most important thing was really what he lived here in the room of renunciation, of stripping himself of his garment, of his egoism, because this is the one way to make us sufficiently empty, to let God fill each one of his love. And so the first thing that is important, that he became here a radically disarmed man, a radically empty man, to become filled from the love of God. The second moment of his theology, radical theology and radical spirituality, is where he writes in the rule that we must be submitted to all human beings, and also, he adds, to animals. This is something strange to understand, but what he wanted to say, in my opinion, what I read in this passage, is that we must be so humble, that we must look all the other beings, and not only human beings, as messenger of God. And so we must be submitted to the voice of God.
So also in other religions.
Also in other religions, submitted, he says, submitted. So, and in virtue of this, he was able to go to the Sultan.
Right.
Of course, he had his faith, and perhaps he wanted to also to testify his faith, because to testify my faith, once we spoke of this, to testify my faith is not to feel myself more or more important, but only friend. If I love you, I must give to you what I have of most precious in my life. In what when the faith is the most precious thing that I have for a friend, for a human being, I must testify it. If you accept it or not accept it, this is another thing. But for me, if I love you as a friend, I must give you what I have most precious in my life. So I testify. When people don't understand...
Okay, but back to Francis and other religions.
Back to Francis, he went to the Sultan because he was a disarmed man. He was a stripped man. He was a humble man. So he wanted to submit him. I think of the Sultan that saw this man so humble, so simple. Really, his eyes said that for him, his life was worth nothing. What was worth for him was to love the Sultan and to give him something important in their dialogue that was peace, that was love. So I imagine the Sultan who saw him. I understand why the Sultan didn't keep him and killed him. And in a context, in a frame where all the Christians were there with arms to conquer.
So back to our project. So what does that mean for us?
Oh, something is very important. It means that through this friendship, this being together, recognizing together in God, we put a very important foundation in the world in order that the world become a world of love, of peace, of justice, of friendship.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Alan. It's my joy.